This room's getting sort of crowded. There's like one more game in this room, and that is a good thing. I'm back in San Diego. It's Coast to Coast Pinball, episode 17. I'm glad you're here. Let's go.
We interrupt this broadcast to bring you a special news bulletin direct via satellite from our on-the-spot task force.
Yes, breaking news alert. Good things happening. I got my Judge Dredd pinball. That is awesome. It's here. You're listening to Coast to Coast Pinball. This is episode 17. My name is Nate Shivers. This is a podcast. It is a commentary. And I'm a man out of quarters. This game behind me right here, this Judge Dredd, it doesn't need quarters. Free play, baby. What's going on out there? It's Sunday night. It's August 18th, soon to be 19th. Teresa starts back at school tomorrow. She's a teacher, so she's asleep already. She's very sorry she could not join us, but later in the week she'll weigh in on a few things. So yeah, you guys know if you've been listening to the episodes, I bought a Judge Dredd. I finally got to pick it up. I got back from my East Coast trip and had to wait even a couple more days. Kind of killing me that I'd already paid for this game, and it was about an hour and a half north of me, and I had to wait to go get it. But we went and did it. Teresa and I drove up on Saturday. I've mentioned before, I drive a sedan. Teresa drives a little hatchback sedan. I have to rent a vehicle to pick up games, which it is what it is. I rented a Chevy Equinox? No, the smaller version than an Equinox. The Captiva, Chevy Captiva. And we went up to Orange County, California, north of us about an hour and a half. And we met Bob. Bob was actually the uncle of the gentleman that I bought the game from. And Bob was waiting for us with his garage door open, and he had an awesome collection of pinball machines in his garage. I mean, he had more games in his garage than any location in San Diego, I believe, if I'm correct. I forget the exact total number of games they had in this garage, but here's the list off the top of my head what they had in there. They had a Paragon, a Kiss, Godzilla, Fishtails, Black Knight, Earthshaker, Nine Ball, High Hand. I'm forgetting the rest. There was like 2 or 3 other EMs in there that I'm just not thinking of. And Judge Dredd was right by the front door, so I picked it up, and that was awesome. But Bob was a really good dude. I told him about the podcast, and he had a lot of kind of history with pinball collecting and selling. He was telling me about his Medieval Madness that he sold to the Pinball Hall of Fame in Las Vegas about 8 years ago for a very low price, which he said makes him sick now, which I totally understand. So, really good guy. Teresa jumped on all his games, started playing Godzilla and playing Paragon, and she really liked Paragon, which is just ridiculously too big and will not be ever coming home with us. Not to mention the fact I'm not a huge EM guy. But anyway, it was fun watching Teresa run around the garage and turn games on and go to town. So we loaded up Judge Dredd, and then I didn't get to come right home and set it up and play. No, Teresa needed help setting up her classroom. So I spent the day in a first grade classroom working on stations and cutting out laminate stuff and just trying to be the good guy. So it is what it is. We got home. My friends who were going to help me unload the game and carry it into my condo were nowhere to be found late Saturday night. And I almost felt guilty, but I had to return the rental vehicle the next morning. So what's a guy to do? A guy all by himself with a new to him pinball machine sitting in a car in his driveway. What do you do? Well, here's what I did. I opened the lift gate of this thing, pulled it out. Remember, this is a Bally wide body game. It's heavy. Pulled it out a little ways, put some blankets on the asphalt down on the ground, got my dolly ready, and I gently slid the game out and down to the ground on its back. So the back and the back that you don't see of the game was flat on the ground, and I'm holding up the back box so that it doesn't come crashing down as I do all this all by myself. And I timed this perfectly so that Teresa was actually, I think she was taking a shower actually, so she couldn't come out and quickly help me. So I got it out there. I got the dolly in place underneath it, and I thought, okay, I can tilt this back. But the driveway's not level, and I'm trying to tilt this game back in the dark, by the way, in flip-flops, because your host here is the smartest man on the planet, clearly. And I can't get it to tilt back on this dolly. No matter what I did, it would either slip to the side, so that if I really tried to tilt it back, I thought it was going to pivot and fall, and I couldn't, due to the unevenness of the ground. I just couldn't get any leverage going. So I holding this back box up with one arm. Why would I have a strap? That would make too much sense, right? I've got the wrong dolly for the job. I've got a dolly with, blown up pneumatic tires, which just everything's just wrong about this. And this is just not a smart thing and not recommended. And I got close a couple times, but I finally, said, no, relax. I laid the back box down on one of the blankets, and I went inside and waited for Teresa to be done. We went out there. And then I just had her help me sort of, hold the back box up and leverage it over. And I finally got it tilted back on the dolly so that I could pull this thing. And after that, it was surprisingly easy. I've never moved a pinball machine all by myself like this before, but I did it. I drug it in with a little bit of her helping from the other side, all the way up, into the condo, up. No, we don't have any steps, but we have little step ups, that I just use brute force to pull up. Got it in. I did have to take the door to my office off because normally I bring the games in through the patio, but I didn't want to create more work with this dolly. So took a door off the hinges, got it in, put it in place. Party Zone scooted over next to Twilight Zone, and Judge Dredd is there. So now I have 3 games in my little office here, which is really fine by me. And if I was like single bachelor dude, I would probably have 4 games in here already. We don't need this futon couch thing, in my opinion. But I am in a shared space, so trying to be respectful. Teresa got the first game. We quickly realized that neither of us really knew the rule set on this game. We were just sort of flipping the game around. So my second game of Judge Dredd with it in my house, I scored 430 million points while talking to Teresa about it the whole time, not really even focusing. 430 million points. And in my head, I thought, that's a really high score, I think. But I couldn't remember what the scoring numbers kind of went by. I couldn't remember if this was like, Medieval Madness type scoring or closer to like Twilight Zone scoring. So I'm thinking, wow, that seems like a pretty big number. I wish I had already reset the high scores on this thing. Because you got to start fresh when you get your game in your house. But I hadn't. So we played a few more games. Really enjoyed it. Everything works pretty good. The game's in fantastic shape. There's fade all around the cabinet, which is fairly common on these Judge Dredds. It's pretty even fade. But the playfield is, it's a 9 out of 10. It's great. There's no wear on the playfield. There's no scuffing. There's no dark streaks. There's nothing. The playfield looks fantastic. And that's what's really important to me, personally. And the only thing I would say is there's a couple lights out, which later I found were just loose, and I fixed them, so that was good. Although I'm already plotting LEDs for a lot of the spots in this game, because I think the inserts will really pop out and look better with LEDs. And there was... what was my issue? Oh, the flippers. The flippers just have a little bit of weirdness to them sometimes. Most of the time when you're playing, they're fine, but I have noticed that one of them will sometimes just drop on you. You're holding the left flipper up and it'll just drop 1 out of 200 times maybe. So I just need to rebuild the flippers. I think it's almost like necessary when you buy a game and get it home that's a used game, especially a game that's older like this, like 21 years old. I think rebuilding the flippers is a good idea. So other than that, though, I'm really happy with the game. It's in good shape, and I managed not to damage anything or break anything, hauling it like an idiot myself into the place. So I reset all the high scores, reset everything to factory. I like to run my games pretty much on factory settings. I feel like that's the way it was sort of designed and intended. Every once in a while, I might tweak a little something if it needs some balance, or the ball save feature on this is really short, so I've thought about maybe going in there and extending that out a little bit, give us a little bit of help here. But resetting these high scores, and since then I haven't gotten anywhere close to 430 million. I think my best score since then is like 201 million. Granted, I'm not very good at this game. I've got to learn how to hit these loop shots. There's multiple loop shots on this game. If you haven't played the game, we'll go into depth in it on a future episode after I've had some time to really, learn it inside and out. But it is it's a 4 flipper game, and there's a mini flipper kind of like Twilight Zone that has its own little loop shot, and then there's an upper flipper also sort of like Twilight Zone except reversed, that has a loop shot. So to me, my first impressions of really playing Judge Dredd over and over on free play and getting into it, it's sort of like a neat mix of a game like Twilight Zone and then something else that has more loop shots and has a little more. There's definitely more speed to this game for sure, and you can keep the ball sort of moving. It drains down the middle a lot. That's probably my most common drain. The movable side drain posts are set to like the easiest spot, which is where they will stay. But the down the middle drains are pretty common. I feel like my slingshots might be set a little hot, so I'm gonna have to do some digging into that because they're just really hyper sensitive and everything. So, but other than that, I'm really excited. Judge Dredd is in the house, so that's definitely a good thing. In other sort of housekeeping and news, I really was trying to figure out a way that I could make the trip to Expo, and possibly, I know I was talking about playing in Pinbrawl. It's not going to happen. I have work commitments that week here in San Diego that I just cannot change. There's nothing I can do about it. So that's not happening. But I still think there might be a way to do Team Coast to Coast. And what I'm actually thinking is getting some cool Team Coast to Coast. I have a t-shirt design that's already kind of designed, and I'm thinking about having some shirts made. And anybody that wants to sport a Team Coast to Coast shirt at Expo will be able to buy one for me at like a discounted price, where maybe I'll sell them below my dead cost on them. So I'm not trying to make any money here. Just support the name and get the name out there. And since I can't be there, if we had some Coast to Coast pinball shirts roaming around Expo, I think that would be very cool. And then we will get Team Coast to Coast up and going, because we're going to do that. When I'm at a tournament, I want to recruit a team, and maybe I'll even pay entries for folks into that, and we'll get together. I'll be more social. I need to be more social in my life, right? So that's definitely going to happen. So there's still a lot to work out on that, and I need to keep thinking. But yeah, on my flight home from the East Coast, I did break out the iPad and my Pinball Arcade app and play a bunch of virtual pinball. I really got into it. I still don't feel fully connected to it. I still feel like I never get the camera angle exactly the way I want it. Using a fixed camera seemed to work out better for me instead of the camera that sort of scrolls through the game as you play. I ended up really liking the simpler layouts, the playfields with less going on. My gut instinct is to go to Medieval Madness, go to Tales of the Arabian Nights, go to Monster Bash, and play those, really highfalutin A-list games because they're right there. But I actually played a lot of Black Hole and Gorgar. Those were the ones that kind of translated best for me. Those are the ones that I was really enjoying the most. And I'm going to download all the rest of the tables they have out before my next flight out. Really get into that some more. I don't know what else there's to say about it, though. They're pretty good representation. The physics are pretty good. I think one of the things you miss is the sort of all the in-betweens in shots. When you're playing a real pinball machine in person, there's lots of shots that barely make it and sort of squeeze through into openings, or have, or miss and sort of careen off in just slight ways. I feel like in the Pinball Arcade, you kind of either make the shot or you don't. And it's pretty good, the physics engine, but there's just something you just really can't fake with a video game version of pinball. And I don't know, I guess that's what really bothers me about it. So, speaking of that trip, though, we need to hit the rest of what I did in New York City.
Trip reports.
So, last episode, I gave you a rundown of my visit to the reciprocal skateboards in the south end of Manhattan. Tonight, we're also going to be on the Lower East Side. We're going to the 2 Bits Retro Arcade. It's actually on Essex Street, which is just south of Houston. Not Houston. I know it looks like Houston, so they know you're a tourist or from out of town as soon as you say Houston Street, because it's Houston. And they have about, I would say, 20 to 25, maybe a few more than that, retro arcade games. It's kind of a long, skinny Barcade. Barcade being its arcade slash bar with alcohol. And then they have 8 pinball games in the back. And it's kind of like a cool little, like, I don't want to say dive bar exactly because it's not dirty and grungy. It's a little more modern, but it sort of has that dive bar feel with all the cool retro arcade games. So I think that, like, there's a lot of quote unquote hipsters, whatever a hipster's supposed to be, just somebody young who's into, new fashion and living cheaply and drinking Pabst Blue Ribbon, I guess. I don't know. But anyway, this place is definitely the hipster sort of place, but not a spot you're going to walk in and feeling welcome by any means. I have been multiple times. It was actually my kind of go-to place in Manhattan to play pinball as soon as it opened last year. And I believe it opened last year. I say that. At least last year sometime. But anyway, so I went early on a Saturday, and it was really packed, quite honestly. I went there about 6:30 or something like that, maybe 7 o'clock, and there's a lot of people in there. In fact, the pinball section was pretty crowded. There were people sitting at the bar, nice mix of, it's people in age 21 to 40, I would say, is kind of the demographic. I on this particular trip, I went because I knew they had gotten a Metallica limited edition into the 2-Bits Retro Arcade, and I had not seen one yet. I've only played the Pro model, and I really like the Pro model if you've been listening to the podcast. So I definitely wanted to go check out their Metallica LE. And I gotta say, when I walked to the back, and they have kind of it's a long skinny room, and in the pinball area, it sort of widens up a little bit, and there's games on both sides. And the Metallica, had a crowd around it. There was, I think 4 people crowded around playing it, taking turns. But the LEDs on Metallica just light up and glow from that machine in the LE version. It's awesome. It's kind of like when you see AC/DC Premium the first time. It's pretty breathtaking to look at from a pinball point of view. So I actually waited over 30 minutes to get on that game. So when I got in, there's a group of guys who were playing 4-player and just sort of rotating through, and they were totally having a good time. So I played a bunch of Theater of Magic, because they have a great Theater of Magic at 2-Bits. And it's sort of the opposite of the one that I play down in Asbury Park sometimes. It just kills me. This one's set up really nice, plays really easy. I shouldn't say easy. It plays less difficult, and I had a really good run on it. Got lots of things going, got the loops happening. It was fun. I really enjoyed it. They have a Twilight Zone there. They have a Sopranos, boo. Both Pinball 2000 machines, Revenge from Mars and Star Wars Episode 1. They have a Funhouse, which is pretty nice, and they have an Addams Family. And they rotate games in and out of there pretty frequently. Because I remember they had a Tron LE in there, which was sort of cool to see a limited edition Tron actually on location somewhere. But that's gone now. I think the Sopranos took its place, if I'm correct. So, 2-Bits Retro Arcade, everything just runs on quarters. It's kind of standard pricing. I think it's 75 cents a game or 3 for $2. I know I think Metallica LE had like 8 for $5. Does that work out right? 2, 4, I don't know. We're not doing math tonight. But when I finally got on it, I just literally put a $5 bill in the bill exchange so I could play for a while. And I'm pretty good at that game. I seem to, that game lines up to my eyes right, and I hit the shots pretty well. Versus the Pro, obviously I think the LEDs are amazing. I don't know if the hammer matters to me. The hammer toy sort of is just to the left of the snake toy, and there's a magnet under the hammer toy, and when the ball sticks to the magnet, the hammer then comes down and quote unquote, smashes the ball into the playfield, and then they go down into the coffin, where on the limited edition in the premium versions, you can see the balls captive in the coffin to then start the coffin multi-ball. And it's like a virtual lock system on the Pro version. It's okay. It's cool. I think it's almost oversized in kind of a goofy way. It doesn't really seem to fit to me. I'm sure if I had the game in my house, I would get used to it. The other difference is the cross rises out from behind the drop targets, which I don't believe it does that on the Pro. That was sort of my goal the first few times I played Metallica. I was going to hit all those drop targets down and get into the cross I don't even know what they call it, crucifix multi-ball, cross multi-ball. get that going, which I did, which is that those are good shots. Those are shots where you hit that ball, you hit those drop targets down in a row and get them out of the way to then hit the cross. It's just cool. And I think the snake is different too. And if I remember correctly, I didn't like the snake as much. Whereas the snake on the Pro was cool. The one on the limited edition, I didn't seem to. Maybe it's just me, and I wish I could play them back to back, side to side, but I couldn't. So, anyway, if you own a Metallic, I'd love to hear kind of your thoughts and insight. Let me know what you think if you have a limited edition, a premium, or a Pro, what your thoughts are and why you chose which one, because I'm seriously considering that might be my next purchase down the road. So, 2-Bits Retro Arcade, awesome place if you're in the city to go check out. If you're into retro gaming, they look like they have a nice selection there. Not really my thing, but do check it out if you're in New York City. First, I just want to make note of a post on the Pinside forums. It is called Crazy Stuck Balls. Crazy Stuck Balls. A, that's a brilliant title to anything. And B, go find it. Seek out Crazy Stuck Balls. It's just kind of fun. If you're a big pinball geek like me and you've ever hit an air ball into a machine and it caught in some oddball place and you had to open the machine up or have it opened up for you to get the ball out, you'll appreciate the thread Crazy Stuck Balls. It's pretty neat because there are some interesting shots there. The most unique Crazy Stuck Ball I think I saw was a ball on AC/DC caught between the top of the slingshot plastic and the glass. Didn't even think that could happen. So seek out and find Crazy Stuck Balls. It's very cool. Also, the full Hobbit playfield has been released by Jersey Jack. Very positive reaction to this playfield. And I know we're just looking at a black and white drawing. And I know we don't have really any idea how it will flow or what the lights will look like or the color or any of the art. It's literally a white background with black lines on paper. And overall, very, very positive reviews. I think this is pretty brilliant the way Jack and the crew have been sort of stringing this out. And I think now that they have Wizard of Oz sort of under their belt, so to speak, they'll do this in a little more time proper manner. And if done right, I think it can be really great as far as building up a nice solid base of pre-orders, some nice excitement, and then hopefully they launch with a bang and whatnot. So we now can confirm that Smog the Dragon is indeed in the upper left side of the playfield. It looks like there's a bank of 3 targets in front of Smog that, I mean, obviously we don't know, we're just looking at lines on paper, but the way the lines are drawn for those particular 3 targets lead a lot of people to suggest that maybe this is a drop-down bank of 3 targets a la Attack from Mars or Avatar, where that bank drops down after it's been hit a certain amount of times, and then you can, hit Smog or interact with Smog. And I think they've used the phrase that, I forget the exact wording, but they've promised a highly interactive Smog toy on the Hobbit pinball. So that's very exciting. That playfield does look very cool. Very excited about that. Speaking of that, also on the forum, a post that I read pretty in depth about. It is posted from John, who is the owner of Reciprocal Skateboards in New York City, from the Trip Report last episode. And his post was titled, "A Wizard of Oz Reliability Report from a Heavily Routed Machine," because he has one there at Reciprocal Skateboards. So get this. He broke down the numbers for everybody a little bit, and he was just trying to kind of get the word out, because obviously if you spend any time at all on pinball forums online, especially Pinside, you know that it's overrun with Wizard of Oz talk between people who got them, people who are waiting for them, people who've gone and played them, people who love it, people who hate it, yada 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 yada. It's a big deal because it's something very new in our industry, and we're all fanatics. We're all here because we love pinball. But it has definitely caused some static in the forums. See what I did there? So John's numbers were this. He said in the first 9 weeks of having Wizard of Oz in Reciprocal Skateboards, he racked up 5,800 plays on this game. 5,800 plays in 9 weeks. That's really great. And a lot of people chimed in and said, amazing. That is like, back in the day numbers, numbers from when pinball was booming. And he said it's by far and away his, top machine right now. He has 9 games in that room, including classics. I mean, it's in there with Circus Voltaire and Creature from the Black Lagoon and Star Trek The Next Generation and Spider-Man. I mean, it's in there with great games. He said 50% of the time, roughly, from his observation, it is the first game people who walk into the store play. So that's also cool. He said 75%, and this is his estimates. Can't really gauge this one exactly, but 75% of the time people play more than one game, which is also very cool. In those 9 weeks, he says that the game had to be shut off for roughly 2.5 days. So that's not much for a new game from a new designer to be shut off. And the problems were, I think he had one board issue that he actually did replace. And then the other problem was I think he said it was a slingshot rubber that he fixed and then dialed back the power of the slingshot, and it hasn't had that problem since. So that's just sort of like, early days of having a game on route issues, sounds like. And he also said he had maybe 3 times where the ball eject wasn't ejecting all the balls properly, or something small like that, where he had to, actually go physically open the glass up and get balls out. So he said by far and away the least problems of any of the games in his room right now is Wizard of Oz. So that's good. The thread went from John kind of giving you some cool stats about Wizard of Oz and sort of an actual, operator who owns the game, their opinions, and their, not just opinions, but their observations and facts. So this thread's really great for that, because there's a lot of like chatter and speculation and just, opinion throwing from people who I don't think really know much about the game or haven't even played the game. So it's interesting to hear John's take. And then John even chimed in later throughout the thread and said that from a player standpoint, he really does like the game and feels that it flows well and that the rule set's better now. And I agree. I agree completely. I did not like the prototypes I played. It looked beautiful, but I was really worried that it was going to be kind of a stinker of a game. And the one at Reciprocal that I played, his game with the new updated code set and everything, it was much better. Still not amazing to me, but much better and very cool. And I think maybe if you're a good pinball player, you might enjoy it more than me. So this thread went all over the place, and as these Wizard of Oz threads just kind of do, it deteriorated into a lot of like bashing of each other and people saying the same thing over and over. There were a couple of people bashing the LCD screen and saying that that's not what they're into, and we need to stick to true art on the back glass, or do a small LCD screen. People urging Stern. But what I think came out of all that LCD talk, aside from some LSD talk, which is a whole other subject that we won't get into because this is a family show, the LCD, for better or for worse, I think it's a game changer. And I've said this before, and I'm going to say it again. This is the future. This is the way it's going. LCD screens in the back box. I think we'll see them in the play field. This is it. I mean, you saw it with slot machines. I played a lot of poker, and I could see when, Wizard of Oz was a slot machine. And these slot machines with video now are taken over. All sorts of different themes, and it almost makes the old ones just look boring. And I'm not saying that we're going to have that happen with pinball, but to a point, maybe, because I was born in the very end of the 70s, and when I look at pinball machines that are EM, with scoring reels versus the solid state games with electronic scoring boards versus the DMD games, you can tell, you've listened to some of these episodes of this podcast, I'm assuming, I'm not really an EM guy. It is kind of dull to me. Do I appreciate them? Oh my gosh, yes. Yes, yes, yes. Do I love going to play them out in the wild when I can find them? Yes. Do I spend, when I'm at, a place like Silver Ball Museum in Asbury Park, which is more EMs than solid state, do I play a lot of my time on EMs? Yes. Do I like them? Yes. But to me, is it sort of like old school? Yeah. And would I go out of my way to buy an EM game? No. I don't think it would keep my attention. And I think to some degree, LCD screens are going to do the same thing to DMDs. I don't know. Chime in. I think so. I think it's inevitable. So it'll be very interesting to see. We're sitting here in the summertime of 2013. In the summertime of 2014, are we going to be talking about Stern games that all have LCDs from here on? Will their next release surprise us and have an LCD screen? Is it 2 releases away? Is it 3? Is it going to be a full year? Are we still going to be talking about this next summer? Stern not having LCD screens as we anticipate The Hobbit, Jersey Jack's second game launching? Very interesting times. We're actually in a change period, I think, of pinball design, and it's pretty exciting. So go check that out if you want to read. I encourage you to read the first page or two, and then if you're really a masochist of some kind, you can keep going through that thread. But anyway, good stuff. Oh, yes, the mailbag is full. I'm going to do my best here. I really appreciate when you guys email me and let me know what you think of the show. I don't know. I'm blown away sometimes with some of the kindness and amazingly friendly emails I get. I am not the most social of creatures on some levels. I mean, I work in a social type gig for my job, but I tend to have a close-knit circle of friends, and it's me and Teresa a lot of the times. So it has been refreshing and humbling and surprising at the fact that I'm already meeting some people through this podcast via emails and stuff that are kind of becoming friends. It's pretty neat. So let's run through this mailbag and see if we can just throw some shout outs and answer some questions. John wrote me, and I'm sorry some of these are almost a week old. John wrote me, Nate, great job on the podcast. I download to my iPhone, listen while I do yard work, and restore my Earthshaker. Earthshaker's a fun game. I like that one a lot. Teresa got to play that the other day. And I don't know how you have the time to keep turning them out. I don't know either. Really enjoy it. I started yours. I listen to Spooky and the Pinball Podcast also. Me too. So thank you for listening, John. I really appreciate it. This is Steve. Steve wrote and said, hey, just heard the new episode. Thanks for the shout out. Yep, okay. So Steve is involved with Cactus Jacks turning into slingshots in Oklahoma City. So he said, or at least he was the one who told me about it. He said, yep, that was Cactus Jacks. They're remodeling and have a big focus on pinball now. He went again on Saturday. It's a lot of fun. They still have half the machines not working. Half are set up to quarters. Half are a card canning system. Kind of annoying. They'll get it better. They do have Wizard of Oz and Metallica on site. So if you're in the Oklahoma area, you've got a great place to go check out pinball, apparently. So appreciate the feedback there, Steve. Keep coming. Joe's been writing me emails pretty often. He talked about virtual pinball here needing some love, which I did. I did that. And let's see. I think his main thing was just letting me know that he really enjoys virtual pinball as much, almost not maybe as much, but a lot. And that there's a lot of layouts that he would never get to play, so that he can play on virtual pinball. So that's very cool. Appreciate that, Joe. John wrote me. I think John wrote me before. He was telling me about the X-Files machine I'd mentioned. I had never played it, and he said that he sort of agreed that it was a little bit of a meh type of game. The main toy is a filing cabinet, not exactly an exploding castle, as he puts it. I think that's pretty fair. I'm going to seek out an X-Files. I want to play this filing cabinet toyed game, so I think that's kind of cool. But anyway, yeah. Thank you very much, John, for listening. Another Steve. I swear it's a different Steve. Love the show, especially how frequently put out the show. You can tell that I know something about mixing and audio quality. It's all luck, I swear. This was pretty funny. That's why I wanted to read this. He wrote, he was listening to episode 13 where Teresa was talking about Attack from Mars. And he wrote, if my wife were ever to tell me I want an Attack from Mars, dude, that's it. Done deal, man. Permission granted, green light, all systems go. I'd have an Attack from Mars in the house before she got home from work the next day. Well, if I could afford one, that is. We can all dream right. Interesting point there. And I guess I should throw this out there to everyone because it was brought up on Pinball Soul. Josh was so kind to mention Coast to Coast again and play a little clip of me and Teresa. Teresa and I aren't actually married. We're living in sin. Ooh. But we've known each other a long time. We're madly in love and I'll be with her forever. Maybe we'll get married someday. Could happen. So she's actually not technically my wife. But, whatever. So the Attack from Mars thing, I have a mental block in my head over about $5,000, or I don't think I can buy a pinball machine for more than that. Because when I get over $5,000, I start thinking like this. Okay, so I paid roughly that for Twilight Zone. Twilight Zone's my favorite theme/game ever. So at $5,000, I could buy 2 Judge Dredds and an EM. I could buy a No Fear, a Doctor Who, and go to Vegas for the weekend. At $5,000, I could buy a lot of things. I could have a Metallica Pro brand new in a box delivered to my doorstep for $5,000 or less. So when you start talking Attack from Mars, yeah, it's Teresa's favorite. Yes, I do love the game myself. I don't know if I could pay what that game commands now. I just don't think I have it in me. So I've relegated myself to the fact I'll likely never own a Medieval Madness. I'll likely never own a Cactus Canyon. Big Bang Bar, no way. Attack from Mars, probably not. There's a lot of them now that are kind of getting to that point that I will probably never own them. If it's a new game and I know that I can sell it for, pretty good money and it's brand new and I might flip it, maybe. The problem with an Attack from Mars, if I'm going to drop that kind of money into that game, I don't ever want to sell it because it's probably that expensive because it's rare. And if I go through all the money to spend to buy an Attack from Mars for that money, I'm gonna keep it. And that's just a lot of money for me to feel like is invested right there in one game. I don't know, Steve. I totally hear what you're saying there, but I don't think I can do that one. Steve also said he was very interested more about this tournament sponsorship, and we're gonna get to that. Like I said earlier, I'm interested too. I don't have it fully figured out yet, but I'm gonna do it. And part of his email leads me to believe that he's a drummer. So if Steve's a drummer, that means he's a man who likes to hang out with musicians. I'm just kidding. Sorry, Steve. I can't help myself. Kevin just said hello, and he likes the podcast, and he's from Austin, Texas, one of my favorite cities on the planet. So thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it. Then I got an email from someone the name pops up as Laura Croft, but then their email is clearly a dude. So at first I was excited. I'm like, yes, we have a woman listening to this. And I was like, no, this dude's name is Peter. But that's okay. I do appreciate Peter. He was saying thank you and pointed me towards another kind of homebrew pinball thing that I have not really had time to check out yet, but I will at some point. Kane, my buddy here, local in San Diego, has solved some of his problems on Pirates of the Caribbean. I think he was playing it on tournament mode. Kane's been giving him some issues, kicking his butt. He may be going to Expo. Was talking about maybe being on the Coast2Coast Pinball team. I hear you. I want a dude named Kane. I want Kane on my team. That's like a scary name that will intimidate those who play against us. So I like that. So I'm going to keep in touch with Kane. Maybe Kane will be one of our official Coast2Coast team members. So thank you very much. Another Steve. Apparently we have a lot of Steves out there in this hobby. Steve is actually I believe he runs the website Fun with Bonus. So check out Fun with Bonus if you haven't before. It's a pinball-centric site. And he is the one who designed the Jack Bar logo that I talked about on last episode for John from Reciprocal Skateboards' new project in Brooklyn on Havemeyer Street. Havemeyer? I don't even know how to say it. And Jack Bar used to be the Satellite Lounge, and he's turning the Satellite Lounge into a pinball bar of new scope and magnitude. So we talked about that a little bit last episode. So check out episode 16 if you're interested on that. Steve's the one that actually did the logo with, Jackbot turned into a Jack Bar logo. So Fun with Bonus, check that out. Thank you for listening, Steve. I really appreciate it. Very, very cool. And don't need that one. And that is just me and Teresa bantering back and forth about nothing. So we won't use that. So the mailbag is empty. That's a good thing. So that pretty much wraps up episode 17. I am headed out on the road later this week. I will be going to the Long Island area again briefly, Not really going to New York City. Going to be north of there, up in like the border of Connecticut area. Then I'll be out in the Middletown, New York area. So I plan on stopping by Rock Fantasy and seeing Steve, another Steve. It's all Steve's. There at Rock Fantasy, and do a trip report. Maybe chat with Steve a little bit about games and stuff. So if you're in any of those areas, or you know where I should go and check out some pinball, by all means, shoot me an email. You can always get a hold of me directly. My name's Nate. You can find me at Coast2Coast Pinball. That's the number 2, Coast, the number 2 Coast, pinball at gmail.com. Our website is coast2coastpinball.com. Facebook, you can find us there, search there. Twitter handle is at C2C Pinball. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. Thanks for listening, guys. I appreciate it. I'm going to play some Judge Dredd here after I edit this baby down, load it up, and then I'll probably go to bed. So I hope you're all being safe out there. Play your pinball machines. Enjoy it. Go find pinball machines en route to throw some money in. Support the guys who are putting machines out in the wild to play. Don't be afraid to tell them they need work. If they need work, we need to keep these things up and running. Let me know what you want to talk about. Talk to you guys later. See ya. Wait, hang on. Wow. So to end this podcast, I'm going to put something at the end. I was just going to let the music play, but this is really awesome. This is a video of this woman playing a pinball machine, and there's a cat on the glass chasing the ball around. It's hilarious. You're going to love this. Okay, I'm going to play this video. Check this out. This is awesome. Watch this cat. This is great stuff.
Ouais, c'est à moi. C'est prêt?